What I study specifically is bringing this global issue down to the local scale. And what I found is that in 9 cases out of 10, the reason why we care about climate change is not because it's introducing a new problem that we've never seen before in the places where we live. It's because it's interacting with existing stressors or vulnerabilities we've already built into the system. Here in California, half of the water comes from Sierra Nevada snowpack, and there isn't enough to go around today. What happens as it gets warmer and that snowpack melts in the winter? Come spring, the Central Valley farmers will not have the water that they need, and there already isn't enough. In West Texas, we're taking our water out of an aquifer. In 50 years, we have drained half the aquifer. It's not coming back. Where are we going to get our water then? As it gets warmer, we need more of it. In the Northeast, you have big cities built right at sea level. They're already vulnerable to storms today, as we saw. What happens as sea level increases? We've built these vulnerabilities into our system, and as the world warms, we're going to see increasing risks that we have already built into our cities, our agriculture, our water, and our energy.
And is that water vulnerability percolating into the political system and the public consciousness in Texas?
In Texas, when you buy your property, you buy the water rights to the property. And so up until now, you have had the ability to withdraw unlimited amounts of water from the aquifer. For the first time, they are attempting to limit what you can take out of the aquifer, and people are up in arms because that's your freedom. It's been taken away. Mm-hmm. So things are changing.
And when you say up in arms, you really mean arms.
Yeah, I do. Yes.
Bill Anderegg, water stress and forests is something that you study. Tell us how much of the droughts and fires that we saw in Colorado and the American West can be connected to climate today?
Certainly. Well, and this touches on your previous question as well. What is the future going to look like? And I think particularly in the Western U.S. in the last couple years especially, we've seen snapshots of what that is. That's longer fire seasons, larger fires, potentially stress on water resources, snowpack, and droughts. And so with regards to our forests that we draw a lot of economic benefits from, we're seeing really the early signs, the tip of the iceberg as to what these forests are going to do during stress. We've seen a number of widespread, massive tree mortality events in the western US and Canada in the last 5 to 10 years. These are pretty strongly linked to temperature, winter temperature, summer drought stress, and it's fairly safe to say these are kind of the early warning signals of what's coming for these ecosystems that a lot of local communities depend on.
And when you're in Colorado doing research, do people connect those dots, the causal link?
They're starting to. We do a number of public talks at community centers and high schools, and when you're out in the field and you're taking measurements up next to a tree or in a tree, and people always stop and they want to know what you're doing. And some of the time they want to chat and tell you what they think is happening. But if they're willing to listen to you, the vast majority of them actually do take note and stop to think about it more.
Michael Mann?
Yeah, well, 2012 here in the U.S. gave us a glimpse of the sort of future that's in store if we don't do something to avert, if we don't shift away from business as usual. We saw record temperatures this last summer. We saw record drought over a large part of the country. In Colorado, that came together with record fuel, lots of dead wood, dead forests or weakened forests because of the pine bark beetle infestation, which is happening because of record warm winters that aren't killing off these infestations. So, forgive the term, it was literally a perfect storm of climate-related circumstances that came together to give us that record wildfire. What else did we see? We saw a record storm, a hybrid storm, Hurricane Sandy, which broke previous records for flooding in New York City. And there was certainly a climate change component in the sense that of that 13-foot coastal surge along the mid-Atlantic coast, along the New Jersey coast at New York City, at least 1 foot of that was global sea level rise. And that made a big difference. That's the difference between a bad and a disastrous flooding event. That storm was sitting over near record ocean temperatures. That means it had more moisture within it. We saw that a year ago, the previous year with Hurricane Irene, which was sitting over record warm ocean temperatures off the east coast of the US, meaning it had a lot more moisture in it. It was a slow-moving storm, and it dumped all of that moisture, leading to record flooding over a large part of the northeastern US. We saw record sea ice decline this summer in the Arctic, and scientists are starting to piece that together, potentially with the unusual trajectory that Sandy took, which was part of the coastal impact that it had.